world. Good evening in Kenya and in Saudi Arabia. My name is Aurélien Lorange from the Corax Foundation, and together we'll have a match. This is the first match in Group H between two universities who are starting currently their competition. So they received a topic, and this topic will be debated a bit later. So we have today Prince Sultan University, and we have also the University of Nairobi. And of course, before we get into the topic, we'll ask each of them, each debater, to introduce themselves. So I would like to give the floor, first of all, to Mr. Paul Kitui. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Kitui. I am a law student at the University of Nairobi, doing my final year. I am an enthusiastic debater. I've been doing it for a few years now, and I'm excited to hear what everyone is going to bring to the table. And I'm happy to see everyone here. Thanks.
Thank you and welcome. We have on the side of Prince Sultan University, Miss Serine Hachem. Welcome.
Hello, how's everyone? My name is Sireen Hashim, and I study interior design in Prince Sultan University, and I'm really excited for this debate.
Thank you, welcome. We have as well in Kenya, from the University of Nairobi, Mr. Ian Irung. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ian Irungu. Just like Paul before me, I am a final year student at the University of Nairobi doing law. I'm not as experienced a debater, but I hope this competition will give me the necessary experience. But I have been passionate about international law for a long time, so I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now back to Riyadh, we have as well Mr. Hassan Mutater Mohamed. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hassan Muhammad. I'm a third-year marketing student in Prince Sultan University, and I'm very interested in law. So hopefully this competition will be a great experience for all of us, and let's see what happens.
Thank you very much. And third member for the team from Nairobi, Miss Jane Baraza. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jane Baraga, and just like my teammates, I am a final year law student at the University of Nairobi. I am a debate as well as an international law enthusiast, and I'm so happy to be here and for this opportunity. So I'm looking forward to interacting with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And third member for the team from Prince Sultan University, Miss Maya Baksh. Welcome.
Hello, so nice to meet you guys. My name is Maya. I'm a first year law student and I am very excited to be here.
Thank you, welcome. We send greetings as well to your coach. There are two coaches in the room currently, two former participants. Miss Kurdi, how are you?
Hi everyone. Hi Mr. Larange. I'm doing great. I'm very excited. I've trained. I feel like it's a different experience coming back as a coach, and I'm getting nostalgic from last year when we used to do these. So I'm really excited to see what the debaters come up with.
Thank you. Miss Hashem, Lynn Hashem, can you hear me?
Yes, hello. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Very, very excited to be here. I was also a participant about 2 years ago with Prince Sultan University in the first edition we joined. Very, very excited. The debaters here, I'm pretty sure from both teams, are very excited.
Thank you. And we send greetings to Professor Adan as well, the third coach. So many thanks as well for coaching several years. So Miss Urbanova is here, as you can see. I give the floor to my colleague, and she will take care of as well the allocation.
Good day, everyone, and wishing you all the best for your first day of the debates for the Higginson University Law Debate Tournament. In a short while, you should be able to see the wheel for the allocation of positions. If you can just confirm that it is visible to you.
Yes.
All right. So for today's topic, which is states have an obligation to coordinate legal responses to shared economic disruptions. As always, there are two options for each team, in favor and against. And for your match today, it will be the debating team of Sultan University that will defend the in favor position, and the University of Nairobi's debaters will be supporting the against position. You will now have 5 minutes to finalize your preparations. Feel free to close your cameras. And when we start, I'll be your host for the match. Thank you, everyone. Your time for final preparation has now passed. We'll be proceeding by hearing the opening statement by the team in favor. Before we start, I ask everyone to turn your cameras back on. And just for full administrative coverage, you will also be having visual cues in regards to your speaking time from my video stream. Yellow card for 30 seconds left, and red card for your speaking time being concluded. Feel free to comfortably conclude your sentence. It is not recommended to start a new one. And thus, without further ado, Prince Sultan University, you have 4 minutes for your opening statements.
Am I audible and visible?
You are.
Okay, I will start in 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, and distinguished audience. In 2008, a financial collapse beginning in one state erased trillions in global wealth and eliminated millions of jobs. In 2020, a health emergency triggered the deepest global recession since the Second World War. These crises teach us one structural truth. When economic disruption is shared, its consequences are borne by ordinary people. This debate asks whether international law binds states to coordinate responses when economic shock destabilizes multiple economies at once. Our answer is clear: yes. Here's why. First, the United Nations Charter establishes a duty of international economic cooperation. Second, the no harm principle prohibits reckless economic unilateralism. And third, international economic law already institutionalizes coordination. To begin, the UN Charter establishes a duty to cooperate. Articles 1, paragraph 3, and Articles 55 and 56 of the United Nations Charter obliges states to coordinate in solving economic and social problems and to take joint action towards stability. This is treaty law, not political aspiration. Economic collapses does not remain contained within borders. It weakens institutions, destabilizes markets, and undermines human security. After the 2008 incident, coordinated intervention prevented systemic breakdown. Without cooperation, competitive protectionism risked worsening the crisis into a global depression. Therefore, when a crisis destabilizes economies simultaneously, states are not merely encouraged to cooperate, they are legally required. Following that, the no harm principle restricts economic unilateralism. The no harm principle of customary international law is proven in the Trail-Smeller arbitration case, where it was established that a state cannot allow activities within its jurisdiction to cause harm to another state. Today, economic harm travels instantly across borders. An abrupt export ban, a destabilizing currency decision. Such actions can trigger inflation abroad, collapse dependent economies, and eliminate jobs. You see, in a globally interconnected economy, unilateral economic measures during systemic crises create serious transboundary harm. Therefore, where foreseeable cross-border harm exists, international law will oblige states to coordinate. Lastly, international economic law already institutionalizes coordination. Coordination is not hypothetical, it's embedded within existing legal frameworks. Under agreements of the World Trade Organization, states must act transparently to avoid discriminatory trade barriers and justify emergency measures. Under Article 2, Paragraph 1 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, states commit to realizing economic rights through international cooperation, particularly in times of instability. And even within the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, economic coordination is institutionalized through structured consultation and policy alignment among other member states. These are not acts of goodwill, but treaty-based and institutional commitments. Therefore, states already operate within systems that presume coordination amid shared crisis. The core question here is, when systemic economic shock threatens millions of livelihoods, may states retreat into unilateralism? The Charter requires cooperation. The no harm principle restricts destabilizing conduct, and international economic regimes institutionalize coordinated action. The legal architecture already exists, and it must be respected. When disruption is shared, responsibility is shared. Therefore, coordination was never optional. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now hear the opening statements for the against position. University of Nairobi, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you, members of the panel. I will begin in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go. Now, members of the panel, the proposition wants to convert something that is often wise and even suggested, such as coordinating in economic disruptions and crises, into something that it is not, and that is a general legal obligation that binds all states whenever there is a crisis of shared economic disruption. Now, our position is simple, that first, under traditional international law, no such general obligation to coordinate legal responses in shared economic disruption exists, and it is only narrow sector-specific duties that actually do exist. Second, when we actually look to state practice in real crises in the past, for example, the 2008 crisis, 2020 COVID pandemic, the 1973 oil crisis, you name it, all of these crises show that states have practiced selective interest-driven cooperation, and they haven't accepted a universal duty to coordinate in times of crisis. And lastly, that when we relabel this aspirative and cooperative language as obligations, it produces vague law, it entrenches power asymmetries between the global north and the global south, and it weakens domestic accountability for economic policy, which is one of the main domains of state sovereignty. So first, we wish to reframe the debate by first defining exactly what an obligation requires in law. Now, in normal everyday conversation, an obligation can be used to define anything from a promise to a New Year's resolution, but in law, we think it needs to have a very specific definition. When we look to the ILC Articles on State Responsibility, as well as Article 38 of the ICJ statute, we can define that a norm or something is a legal obligation if one, it has a basis in a recognized source, for example, treaty, custom, or general principle. Two, it has specific content, meaning that we can say exactly what conduct is required by a state in a certain situation. And three, it actually binds the state, and a state can be challenged in a forum of international law, for example, the ICJ or an international tribunal. Now, the supposed sources of international law that proposition has cited do not get us to this particular point. They have cited the UN Charter, specifically Articles 55 and 56, which requires members to take joint action for solutions to economic problems. However, when we look at the commentary to the UN Charter, as well as practice from the UN, as codified in the UN repertory of UN practice, we find that states have never come to a singular definition of what cooperation actually means. And in fact, when we look to past practice, especially in crises such as 2008 and 2020, we find that states have always acted in their own self-interest. For example, in the 2008 crisis, the US, one of the major countries impacted by the financial crisis, imposed its own stimulus packages that violated international trade law. They prioritized American industries, they prioritized American labor, and they prioritized American concerns whenever they were instituting these stimulus packages, which is in gross violation of Articles 1 of the GATT and Articles 3 of the GATT that require countries not to discriminate against products or services from foreign countries or to prioritize domestic products. This means that in any situation, countries have always prioritized their local economies, their domestic economies and populations first before looking to cross-border concerns. Again, the proposition has cited cases such as the Shell smelter case, which was about international environmental law. We hope to distinguish that particular application of that case because the holding in the arbitral tribunal case was that whenever a country has a certain cause of environmental pollution happening on its own territory, then it has an obligation to prevent the spillover of the effects of that environmental pollution to other territories. This is different from shared economic disruptions where the cause might not be specific to a certain state but affects many states. In this case, we can't hold any single state responsible for the economic disruption, and therefore we cannot impose upon them a duty to prevent the spillover of those economic disruptions to other states. And therefore, we do not have a grounded legal duty to cooperate in cases of shared economic disruptions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have now heard the opening statements from both sides of the argument. Now proceeding to rebuttals. Prince Sultan University, you have 2 minutes for your first.
Am I visible and audible?
You are.
Okay, I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Shin kept stating that our opening speech had a lack of customary law. Well, not only do principles and customary international law bind states to coordinate, but general principle of laws, a separate source of law under Article 38(1)(c) of the ICJ statute, obliges states to act in good faith. In the Gabkova-Nagimuras project of 1997, the ICJ emphasized that the principle of good faith obliges the parties to apply treaties in a reasonable way and in such a manner that its purpose can be realized. And also, the opposition stated that that there is no actual law that obligates countries to work together, but they keep confusing the form and the function. When recommendations are consistently followed by the world's major economies during every crisis, as the ones mentioned in 2008 and 2020, they transition into binding customary law. They become considered as opinion juris, where it has become the standard of conduct that the International Committee expects. And also, consistent adherence to the OECD standards, it creates a legitimate expectation in international law. And a sudden uncoordinating departure from these norms during a crisis is a breach of the good faith requirement in international institutional law. And also, the opposition stated the Trio Smelter case. Well, they are ignoring the legal reason behind the case. Yes, it was for a environmental issue and not an economical issue. But the Trail Smelter arbitration established that no state has the right to use its territory to cause injury in or to other territories for other countries. Well, this case it establishes a duty of due diligence to prevent these foreseeable harms in the future, whether it's environmental or it is economical. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now to hear the first rebuttal by the University of Nairobi's debate team, you have 2 minutes.
Right. I will be starting on the count of 3, 2, 1. Responding from what we've gotten to the immediate former speaker. So they cite Gabshikovo Nagimaro, the ICJ holding in 1997. While we appreciate the citing of the case, the first thing we'd like to establish is that that principle does not apply here. We don't contest the fundamental principle of good faith. In fact, all cases should be interpreted in good faith. It's just that many of the states have not consented into this obligation universally, which is a separate issue of whether or not they choose to consent in it, then they should act in good faith. Therefore, we think that citation is largely irrelevant to the contention. But then to the greater contention within which has formed this debate. State practice and opinio juris, as rightly distinguished by the immediate former speaker, are the fundamental components that lead to the crystallization of a standard of customary international law. And the fact is, while states might practice these things, it's largely in isolation. There is no common tether or shared framework that these states have specifically agreed on, especially in the context of addressing shared economic disruptions. A great example of opinio juris and an accepted practice is in the practice of indigenous people. For example, the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People has 143 states that have ratified the convention. That can rightly be cited as customary international law, as there is opinio juris and a general consensus that the same is true. However, while there are isolated instances of addressing economic problems in isolation and things of that matter, there is no consistent and agreeable framework within which the states have been able to coalesce into forming a uniform body of law within which the countries must consistently follow. That, we argue, is a fundamental obligation that does not exist in status quo. I rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to hear the second rebuttal for the in favor position, Prince Sultan University, you have 2 minutes.
Am I visible and audible?
You are.
Yes, we'll start in 3, 2, 1. The opposition came and stated points where what we were stating has no correlation to the situation. But if we go back and see other cases that really affected problems like this, we have the Marshall Plan. It was post World War II in the Reconstruction, where this case, it's a joint plan to recover for the received aids that happened after the war, which actually It later codified the Article 56 of the UN Charter. And then we have other cases like the Montreal Protocol, where there was where states did not wait for a specific economic treaty, and they recognized that the function of the atmospheric disruption, it required a mandatory coordinated legal response for them to get over the issue. And also, they stated that the United States, one of the biggest affected countries in the 2008 global financial crisis, they did their own thing where they fixed their own countries. Well, the opposition, they call this this issue unrelated to our case, but in reality, it proved that the 2008 financial crisis, it proved that there's an underlying opinion juris where the system could not work if states did not work together to solve the solution. So the opposition really thanks the proposition for the great points that were mentioned, but rebutting the good faith as a concept that does not work in this situation is really killing the point of the whole good faith situation. And the proposition would like to state that if it wasn't for the good faith, if it wasn't for the Trias Melter case, we would not be able to debate our stance in here because they were one of the biggest advocates for our situations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now to hear the second rebuttal for the against position, University of Nairobi's team, you have 2 minutes.
I will begin my submissions in 3, 2, 1. So, whilst cooperation is plausible and achievable, there has been no established obligation that has been clearly stated or mandated in any of the international instruments, as aforementioned by both my prior speakers. The team proposition have referred to the Marshall Plan case. However, the Marshall Plan was a unilateral United States action to save and revive Europe. That does not inherently signify that there was joint coordination in being able to respond to our shared economic crisis. Additionally, just bearing reference, because they keep on referring to the case of the child smelter arbitration case and the ability to carry out due diligence obligation. If I'm able to draw this particular panel to the Ethiopian crisis in 2024, where they were able to have an IMF stimulus package that was able to revive them from while they were suffering with currency devaluation. Even though there was foreseeable impact that it would probably affect the imports towards different nations, they were still able to carry out a measure that was able to sufficiently cater towards its own the state's needs. This particularly speaks towards the political economic nature of the current global landscape, which inherently dictates that in such a situation, states often have to prioritize the immediate needs of their own nations, which might not sufficiently be catered for through expecting joint coordination or legal responses when it comes to shared economic crisis. Hence, otherwise, choosing to assert that there is an obligation to that, it then creates a stringent and it creates a stringent response, especially when it comes to decision making. Because when it comes to coordination, there is an expectation to probably harmonize legal policies, which might not sufficiently cater towards the immediate needs of different nations. For instance, take global North nations and global South nations. There's already a different economic capacity of both nations. Hence, in such an instance, asking or asserting that there is an obligation for states to inherently take up or rather coordinate legal responses. Not only does it not cater for what the nations need, but additionally, it just creates a fragility when it comes to the global economic landscape. Thank you from the team opposition.
Thank you. We'll now be hearing the concluding statements. Starting with the Prince Sultan University, you have 2 minutes for your in favor conclusion.
Am I audible and visible?
You are.
I'll begin in 3, 2, 1. Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, distinguished audience, in a globalized world, economies are not isolated fortresses. They are dominoes standing side by side. When one falls, others do not remain standing for long. International law imposes a binding obligation on states to coordinate their responses to systemic economic disruptions. Our core point is simple. To prove this obligation exists in law, not as diplomacy, not as charity, but as a binding duty upon states. First, the United Nations Charter requires cooperation. Article 1, Paragraph 3, Article 55, and Article 56 mandate joint actions because economic collapse does not stay confined. Without coordination, instability multiplies. Second, The no-harm principle prohibits reckless unilateralism. The Trial Smelter case reaffirmed that states may not cause harm to others. Today, export bans or destabilizing policies can collapse dependent economies. Sovereignty is not a shield to swing blindly. It carries responsibility. Third, binding regimes already structure coordination. GATT requires transparency and non-discrimination, and the ICSCR commits states to economic cooperation. Coordination is not optional. It is embedded in law. The opposition proposes that there is no legal obligation. However, 173 states are parties to the ICSCR, a binding convention, and the UN Charter is likewise binding. When states voluntarily commit to binding instruments, their obligations are not discretionary, they are legal duties. History has shown what happens when states retreat into fragmentation, and history has shown what coordination can prevent. When disruption is shared, responsibility cannot vanish at the border. If the law is clear and the harm is real, what excuse remains for denying coordination? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be hearing the concluding statements for the against position by University of Nairobi's team. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, members of the panel. Now, our colleagues on the proposition are right that cooperation is often wise and even sometimes morally necessary in times of economic crisis, but they are asking you to cross a line and to recognize that there is a general legal obligation to coordinate responses to shared economic disruption. They cite the UN Charter and they cite the ICESCR, and they emphasize that there is a wide adoption of these statutes, 173 countries in particular. However, it is important to distinguish between provisions of these statutes between aspirational language and those that imply mandatory obligations. Commentary on these cooperation obligations in Article 1.3, Article 56, 55 of the UN Charter, as well as Article 2.1 of the ICESR, have emphasized that states have resisted any broad extraterritorial obligations in terms of human rights and in terms of cooperation. Looking even to past practice, as we have established, because opinio juris requires evidence of state practice to establish customary international law, we find that in situations of crisis, states have consistently acted on their own self-interest. And history warns us that even coordinated responses can deepen inequality when they're designed by the powerful. States have different economic realities. Some are export economies, some are import economies, some are service economies. And therefore, whenever a crisis hits, a policy that would be appropriate for an economy that is primed for export would be different from an economic policy that's primed for an economy that is import-oriented. And therefore, we cannot expect states to design economic policies in response to shared crises in absolute coordination. And for these reasons, we respectfully oppose the motion.
Thank you. Thank you for your conclusions. And you can all now relax. You're no longer graded after this part. Well, most importantly, on behalf of organizing team, congratulations for concluding your first debate match of the 2026 edition. As always, the judges have 2 working days for reviewing the match and submitting the scores. Once we confirm the scorecards have been received, you will be, of course, informed, and we'll publish the results as well after. On that note, thank you. Thank you very much for the 3 judges that will be observing your debate and giving you the feedback. But already now you can do a round of feedback with each other. And I would like to invite the Prince Sultan University's team, starting with Hashem. In regards to today's debate, how did you find the topic? How did you find the debate itself? And did you perhaps hear some familiar arguments from the opposing side to your research?
I really enjoyed this topic just because I've read about it recently. And as regarding to the research, a lot of our research was extremely similar. And I'm glad that we researched this well.
Thank you for sharing. From University of Nairobi, Mr. Kitui, how did you find the debate, the match? Did you perhaps hear familiar arguments from the other side?
The match went well, better than I expected actually. So it was really close, and I enjoyed every second of it. Yeah, definitely very overlapping parts of research, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing what we'd been working on, come out in a slightly different way, ways with which we could learn from our worthy opponents. So definitely a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yes, thank you for sharing. Mr. Mohammed of Prince Sultan University, how did you find the debate? And perhaps did you already have some familiarity with the topic?
Yeah, it was a great debate, honestly, and it was clearly visible that both teams were fully prepared to the brim. Our points were very similar. It was like playing a chess match at a certain point with the rebuttals and all of our parts of the speeches. So yeah, it was a really nice debate, and just want to thank them for a good match.
Thank you for sharing. Ms. Baraza of the University of Nairobi's debating team, how did you find the debate and were you already familiar with the topic?
Thank you. So I found the debate to be quite engaging, and it's quite interesting because the arguments that are being raised by team proposition are quite similar to what we had prepared for. So at least there was some connection in mind, or rather thought. And it was also a topic that I was reading for recently for a different model UN mood. So it was quite familiar and it was interesting applying that here. So it was a really good experience. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. From Prince Sultan University, Ms. Baksh, how did you find the debate today?
I enjoyed the debate a lot. I enjoyed researching about the debate because it's a topic that interests me, and I found the debate very fun. I like to hear what the opposition had to say, and it was exciting seeing what my team how my team could respond to their points.
Thank you for sharing. Mr. Irungu of University of Nairobi, same question for you.
Just to echo all the previous speakers, I thoroughly enjoyed this debate. I thought it was very intellectually stimulating. And as they've all said, it's sort of like we had a mind connection because most of the provisions and the cases that the other team were relying on, we had also researched. So it was very comforting to hear familiar provisions of the UN Charter, ICESCR and everything. So I enjoyed the back and forth because there was like a similar base of knowledge, and then we were now simply arguing on that common base of knowledge. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you to debaters for sharing your feedback on today's match. Also, just a short space for the two coaches present on the call today. Ms. Hashem, Ms. Kuddi, how did you find the exchange between the two teams today? The topic perhaps as well?
I think it's really nice to see how all the coaching plays out and how all the research that I've seen the team do actually materializes during the debate. And also, like they said, hearing the other team's points and seeing the overlap, the same points that we researched. So I think it was evident that both teams, came very well researched. And I think that makes the debate more and more fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And I saw these debaters go through all the phases of grief preparing. So very proud of you guys. You did a wonderful, wonderful job. Both teams, you made it very entertaining and very, very competitive. So we thank you for that.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Once again, from my side, really well done. I'm passing to Professor Lorange to wrap up today's session with a little bit of networking.
Yes, congratulations again for your first match. And that was really interesting as well to see the rebuttals. I have two questions for you to know more about you and as well your motivation and as well, some cultural aspect. And I will give the two questions to each team, so successively. So you can choose who want to answer each of the two questions, of course, in your team. So we'll start with University of Nairobi. Why did you decide, you members of the team, to represent your university in this competition? And the second question is, what would be the first thing that the team from Riyadh should experience when coming to Nairobi? For the first time, maybe. So, who wants to answer?
I think I can answer that, at least the first one. So I enjoyed this mood, and especially working with these guys, mostly because other than this competition, they're also like two of my closest friends, and we've done prior competitions together that the chemistry was good and we did extremely well and we won. So it was just sort of carrying on the impetus in that regard. So when this came, I was more than happy to summon them and tell them maybe one last ride before like we graduate. So I think I sort of saw it from that perspective. Yeah, so yeah, generally I love working with these guys. It's chemistry 10 out of 10 for sure. In terms of what to say in Nairobi, maybe one of these guys can take it. It's a question I'd love to answer personally, but maybe let the others also chip in as well.
Okay, maybe I can take that one. What I would say about Nairobi is the nightlife. The nightlife is amazing, and that's because it's not just a personal bias. It's simply because on a number of occasions we've had like law school competitions, such as moot court competitions, where we've invited schools from other regions, and whenever they've come and we have had a Kenyan night in the town, they've always remarked that it was so different from what they usually have back home. And that's why I think it's appropriate to pride ourselves on like our nightlife. It's vibrant, it's sometimes chaotic, but you will never lack for memories whenever you go out in Nairobi at night. So I would say that's the first thing you should try out when you get to Nairobi. Make sure you sleep off the jet lag so that when evening comes around, you're awake and active. Yeah.
You want to give a compliment as well, Miss Baraza?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I think I could just add probably they could visit the Nairobi National Park because it's at the heart of our country, as well as probably now for law students, you could visit the Judiciary Museum of Kenya. It's an interesting peek, and you get better insights as to how the law regime in Kenya has evolved. So probably those three aspects. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Same question now. So first, your motivation to present Prince Sultan University, and as well what to see, what to experience when coming for the first time in Saudi Arabia or in Riyadh particularly. So who wants to answer?
Yeah, if my team would let me answer the first one, I would say that me, Maya, Sireen, Rena, and Lean, we're under one club, Debate Society, and we've had previous work together. We've been working together for the past 2 to 3 years. Whether some people are new to the university or we're just been here for a minute, I would say we've been working together for a long time, and we've had that experience together in different competition, whether it's law competition, debating competition, marketing competitions. We've debated all around in the Emirates and previous teams that went to Hague. And I would just like to say that our team is just consists of the best people we know. And I'm just glad to be representing my university and the Debate Society team in such a prestigious competition as the Hague. Thank you.
Thank you. And
I can continue on to that question on what to experience. I think one of my favorites are probably Gadia Park, which is basically Six Flags, but it's one of the 5 parks that are outside the US. And another thing probably would be Daraya, where it shows the heritage of Saudis and their culture. And we know Riyadh, you'll experience amazing food here wherever you go. And yeah.
thank you. And do you want to add something, Miss Baksh?
Yeah, I'll add on to Celine. If you guys want to come to Saudi Arabia, we have many distinct areas. Honestly, we have the desert, we have the beach, we even have snow. If you want to come to specifically Riyadh, I would also say the same as them. The nightlife here is very nice. We're famously known for coffee shops and amusement parks too. So yes.
Thank you very much. So this is an opportunity to keep contact if you wish between the two teams after this match. This is a journey and this competition where you will meet many different parts of the world And in your career, you might want to as well reconnect later if you have to work, for example, in some cases. So don't hesitate. So this is the end of this session. We wish the best, of course, for the next match, but we'll wait for the result of this match maybe early next week or the end of the week. We'll let you know, of course, as soon as we have those score sheets. They will be shared with each team. So many thanks again, and we keep in touch, and don't hesitate to watch the other match as well. So many thanks. Have a good evening as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.